The following program contains mature subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
The latest trends and hottest topics, love and sex, handled honestly and with passion. Here's Dr. Laurie, CJAD 800.
So in 1987, about 13% of Americans completely agreed that interracial dating is entirely acceptable. In 2010, that number rose to 56%. And millennials, 90%, fully accepting both interracial dating and interracial marriage. As you can guess, we're talking about dating. It's our Dating Dilemmas. The last Wednesday of every month, we answer all of your dating questions. And we thought we would focus tonight on interracial, intercultural, interfaith dating. So if this has been your experience and you want to share it with us, we would love to hear from you. 514-800 to text in, or 514-790-0800. So tonight we have our usual suspects, one of whom is in an interracial marriage. That's Fitzgerald Morisseau of EliteSpeedDating.com. We also have Frank Kermit, who is our regular dating coach here. He is the author of many, many books on dating. And special guest, Petrona Joseph, who is a TV personality. She's a publicist and she's an author who also has personal experience with interracial relationships. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you.
Always great to have you guys. So we've got, well, let's hear your stories, first of all. So we're talking about interracial. Do we even want to define interracial, intercultural, interfaith? Do they need definition, you think?
I would imagine that interfaith relationship is made up of two people of different religious backgrounds.
Yep.
Intercultural relationship, people of different cultures. And interracial relationships, people of different races.
Makes sense, but sometimes that can be a little confusing, right? Between intercultural, interracial, the interpretation, I guess. But for simplicity's sake, when we think about interracial relationships, we think of like a visible minority with white. That's generally what
Correct.
we think of, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so we're all on the same page. So Fritz, give us your story a little bit.
My story. Well, I can tell you that I'm recently engaged to my lovely wife, and I could also say that I've hit the jackpot with the intercultural, interracial, and interfaith.
Oh, tell us.
Well, because I hit all three.
Okay.
Right? So therefore, my partner is Romanian.
Okay.
So my bride-to-be is Romanian. We're fiancéed right now. So she's Romanian. So yes, she's white. I'm black. So we hit the interracial. Because she's Romanian, she has a different culture than I do, because I'm from a Haitian background.
Okay.
So those are the two different cultures right there, interculture and interfaith. Not so far away. We're both Christians. Mm-hmm. She's Orthodox, and I'm Roman Catholic. Mm-hmm. So choices had to be made there as well. Depending, just because we have two beautiful daughters, so we had to decide.
Right, baptism types of things.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. All right. And Petrona, tell us your story. What's your background?
So I'm Trinidadian American living in Montreal, and I was in a 17-year interracial, intercultural, and interfaith relationship.
Also, all three.
Yes. There's also different languages involved.
Oh, we didn't even get to interlingual.
That's another thing, exactly.
Yes, especially here in Quebec. That's, I guess it might be considered a cultural thing. Anglophone, Francophone culture, I don't know, but certainly language plays a role.
Absolutely. My experience was a positive one. I was well received in the family. And he was not so well received with my father.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. My father had some strong beliefs. However, since then, I mean, I've experimented dating other cultures and other religions, and for me, it's a non-issue.
Okay.
We have Chinese in our family. One of my sisters is in New York. She's married to a Chinese. My other sister now married to an American, like 100% American. And but for me, anyways, it's a non-issue of color, of race.
It's never been an issue.
It's never.
What about, and Fritz, for you, has it ever been an issue, like in the past for your families?
No, so I can say for my family, and I can only speak for my family,
Right.
Myself. For my family, it hasn't been an issue. I will say that I have dated in the past. I'd like to say many women of different races and culture, and I've experienced what love can bring on many shades of color,
And of your own, also of your own culture, of your
and my own culture.
background?
I started with I started dating with Haitian women, and
Okay.
then moved across the Caribbean to Eastern Europe and whatnot. So I had a good diverse dating life, and for me, like Petrona, I've never seen an issue with it. I actually think it brought fulfillment to my life. I get to experience a whole bunch of different things that I didn't before. Hence why I am now engaged with someone. But I think it's also important to know it's not like I was out seeking something different. I was seeking loyalty, love,
Right.
friendship.
Which
That's
has
what I
no
was
color,
seeking.
right? Which has no
Exactly.
color, no race, no religion. I find it interesting when they ask, when they do these statistics, and they say, do you completely agree or do you disagree with interracial dating, as if it's like a belief, and that's kind of weird to me that this is I don't believe in it. What is the belief? Like, what are you not believing in? Accepting, not accepting is one thing, but when you see the jump from 13% and then 30 years later or so to 56%, there's been a real shift. I mean, there was a time when you if you walked down the street and you were a mixed race couple, you might have been looked at, bullied, harassed. I don't know.
Well, depending on where you lived at that time, it could have been illegal.
Yes,
It
that's
was
true.
illegal at one time. And there are some people that just feel that when it comes to things like marriage, because there's children involved, they feel that it's easier to relate to someone that has the same background as you, the same faith as you. Even in today's modern times, there are still people that will not be open and accepting of it. You know, especially people who wish to preserve their religion, who wish to preserve their culture, and they may frown upon it. I know some people that have ended friendships because one of the friends married somebody outside of the religion or outside of the faith, outside of the culture, and these type of prejudices still exist.
I've heard somebody say to somebody else once, "You're diluting your religion, or you're diluting our people, by going outside the faith, because your children will not be completely of the faith." And then, and then you just keep going and diluting and diluting. So I thought that was a very strong statement to make. But
Well, there are some singles who blame interracial dating and interracial relationships for them being single.
that doesn't make sense.
Because they only want to date within their circle, and they feel that every person from their circle who's dating someone outside of the circle is somebody who should have been available to them.
Well, misdirected anger. 514-800, this text writes, "It's culture, not color." That's a good way of putting it. So this is our dating dilemmas. Any dating questions you have is fine. We will accept that and we will answer them. But we would like to focus on interracial, intercultural, and interfaith dating as well. What are your experiences? Positive, negative, family reactions to this? Have you found any challenges? Maybe no challenges, which is great. We'd love to hear from you at 514-800.
Your relationship's on the line. Connect with Dr. Laurie now. 514-790-0800. Passion. News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
Dating Dilemmas tonight brought to you by EliteSpeedDating.com. We've got Frank Kermit, dating coach, in studio, along with Fitzgerald Morisseau, founder and president of Elite Speed Dating, and Petrona Joseph, who is a TV personality, publicist, and author who has personal experience, as well as does Fritz, whose partner is white. He is black. And we're talking about interracial, intercultural, or interfaith dating, and the statistics are quite have changed drastically in the last 20 to 30 years in terms of acceptance of this. And I'm thinking about Trevor Noah's story. Do you know his story? He grew up in South Africa. I think his father was black. I forget which one it was, but he could not. His father had to walk on one side of the street, and his mother with him on the other side, and they had to pretend like he didn't know his father. Yeah. Like that, it was illegal at the time for them to even have been made a child or been together or what have you. It's fascinating. Like when you think of other parts of the world, we're pretty fortunate here.
Well, in the United States, wasn't one of the first legal cases of a couple demanding that their marriage be recognized? I believe the last name of the couple, coincidentally, was Love. So Mr. and Mrs. Love, I believe he was white, she was black, and they insisted and said, no, like, our children are legitimate. Our marriage is legitimate. So it hits a lot closer to home.
Yeah. And it's not that far in the past.
No.
That's the scary thing. Texter writes, I'm biracial and tend to date in waves. First it was white men, then black men, now Arab men. I think the most important factor, this texter writes, is that you feel comfortable with your partner's culture, color, etc. It's as okay to want to be with someone like you as it is okay to be with someone different from you. That's very well said.
I'm curious, what would happen if you liked the person but you didn't like the culture they're from?
Well, doesn't that all come together? Like at some point?
Well, I've actually coached someone who he adored his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And just so we don't offend anybody here on air, he adored his girlfriend. He detested the culture she came from. Mm-hmm. And this was proving to be a challenge for him. He was trying to figure out, should he continue to get more serious with her or should he walk away?
Please explain to me what that means, because I have to admit I have a disconnect with that. How can you love the person and detest the culture that they come from? If you love that person was raised in that culture, therefore things that you love about her or him are ingrained within that same culture. You might not agree with certain things.
People have biases against particular cultures. They have not just biases, they have preconceived notions, conceptions of whatever it is. So I think that's what it relates to.
You found the exception in the group. So it's like, I don't like any of those people, but this one I love because this is the exception to that group.
I think that there's a deeper problem with that person, a deeper issue with that person, because I do agree with Dr. Laurie that people have their biases, prejudices, or opinions. Yet for someone to use such strong language and say, I love you, but had everybody around, that to me is like saying, now I hope I don't offend anybody, but it's like saying, when I grew up, I don't like black people, but you're okay.
Right.
Come on, like.
Well, that's exactly it. But people do have that. I have heard that many times actually, and Frank, I've seen it in my office play out in relationships where I love her, I love him, but I can't stand the culture, the parents, the way they think, the way this thing, and it interferes in their relationship for sure. So once those initial great feelings of love and the beginnings of a relationship where nothing else matters, suddenly everything starts to matter when now you've got kids and now you've got other things and families and all kinds of stuff. I don't know if you've ever experienced any of this, Petrona, or your thoughts on this.
Yes, I have.
Okay. Share, please do.
But it was more or less the faith. I liked the person, and surprisingly, the person's family welcomed me. But at one point, it was like, I can't see myself doing this, participating. And so I had to call it quits. Yeah.
Right. So you weren't okay with the practices, let's say, of that particular culture. Or what if a culture or religion, you're not accepted unless you convert?
Exactly.
You know, and there's pressure to do that. I had a conversation with a friend just recently, dating a Muslim person. She's not. She's was raised here Catholic, and they're talking about getting serious and eventually having children. And he said, "Well, I can't marry you unless you convert and to be a Muslim." And she cannot reconcile that with her own beliefs. Like, it does for her, it does not make sense. It just didn't. It doesn't click for her. Now, others have done it for sure, but you have to embrace. You have to be able to embrace somebody's culture.
With that said, there are couples who they themselves get along, and for them, it's not an issue, but it's an issue for the family. Mm-hmm. And the family says, one of you must convert, or one of you must adapt and take on our ways, which the individuals themselves may not really care. It wasn't something that I factored in when they got together. But now you have the parents that are saying, listen, we don't approve. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people have to make some very hard choices.
And I think there are, I don't recall the exact numbers, but certainly studies have been done on looking at approval and success of relationships. When families approve of the relationship, there's a better success of that marriage as well.
Well, it's easier.
It's easier. Exactly. It's much easier. Integration is easier. You don't have troubles, problems, all of those things. Well, same kinds of problems.
This is why some people make the argument, stick with your own kind, because it's easier. You don't have to debate the holidays. You don't have to debate certain cultural norms, because you're going to raise your children some way. And look, for some people, it really is easier. And other people, they love the difference.
Right.
They love the sharing of cultures. They love the mix. Yeah. We sometimes talk about the December dilemma, when all of the holidays happen and people feel they have to pick and choose. Which holidays do we celebrate? And then you have those couples that say, we're celebrating all of them.
We celebrate all of it, right? And then you have others that say, well, that's confusing for the children, So we have certainly different opinions on that. 514-800, this is our dating dilemmas. We're focusing tonight on interracial, intercultural, interfaith dating and relationships. This texter writes, my second wife was Mormon. I'm Catholic. It only lasted 7 years because she was broken. Won't go into it. If you love the other person, religion shouldn't matter.
Love's not enough.
Love's not enough. That's the bottom line.
That's not realistic.
Yeah.
Love is a great motivator, but if you're not able to set boundaries with people who try to pressure your relationship to be something you don't want it to be, then love is not enough.
Yeah, but love is not enough. Like, people go into relationships always thinking that love will fix it, love will cure it, love will, we will overcome because of love. Mm-hmm. But love is never enough for a relationship. Grow up. And then you grow up. Yeah, then you grow up. Dating dilemmas, 514-800. This is from somebody who says, at first, when a family member got pregnant by a black man, her family were against it 100%. She, however, was determined to move forward with the pregnancy and have the baby, who is now a thriving young man. It's amazing to see that while her parents were very much against the idea of her having an interracial baby, they now love and adore their grandson.
Happy ending.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen.
Right.
It's a wonderful happy ending, and sometimes you hope that the parents will come around because they're going to want to have a relationship with the grandchildren. It does not always happen. There are grandparents who will forsake.
In this day and age, I almost don't even see it as much of an issue around me. When I look at couples, and it's almost like gay marriage. It's a given, It's just
now
kind
it
of
is,
it's just
yes.
a given. So if we're that's legalized and everything else.
Perhaps in your circles, and maybe here in Canada or in a city like Montreal,
right.
that is silver. But you still have some places in the United States that will not bake a cake for a gay wedding.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's quite true.
It may feel like for us here in Montreal that it's just an accepted thing. Why is this even an issue? Why should we even talk about it? Because there are places around the world where it is still an issue.
Right. And because we're a multicultural society here, probably the one of the biggest multicultural city centers, these issues do come up. Like these kinds of things certainly come up.
But I'd like to add something, actually. I went to boarding school in Trinidad for 3 years. And surprisingly enough, having grown up in North America, I was shocked to even see racism in Trinidad.
Really?
So, yeah. So if you're Black and you want to marry someone who's Indian, the families, especially the other half, or, they would protest. Yeah.
Wow. So even troubles within the same, within the same culture, race is also different. There are differences there too. We'll continue to address this with my Dating Dilemmas panel. We have Frank Kermit, Petrona Joseph, and Fitzgerald Morisseau in studio. And any of your thoughts, would love to hear from you at 514-800.
The following program contains mature subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Straight talk that's all-inclusive. Passion with Dr. Laurie. News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
Tonight on the program, we have our Dating Dilemmas panel. I'm joined by Fitzgerald Morisseau of EliteSpeedDating.com, Frank Kermit, a dating coach who's been with us for many, many years, and Petrona Joseph, who is a special guest. She's a TV personality, she's an author, and she has her own personal stories to share and her own opinions about interracial relationships, interfaith, intercultural, sometimes all three, as we've seen. So we'd love to get your text at 514-800. I know a couple, one is Muslim, the other is Catholic. They celebrate both holidays, and their child has no religion yet, and it works out great. That's great when you don't have family interference who are pushing and pushing and pushing, right?
That's very nice.
Married to a white Frenchman. I always ask myself how much of my heritage will be passed on to my children. We live in Montreal, where it's easier to be identified as white, and it starts at a very young age. I'm not sure what that. Do you understand that?
Yes, I don't know what culture that person is. She's probably fearing, as she said, how much is going to be transcended or.
Right,
passed on.
Oh, because we live in a very white culture, I guess. Okay, so, well, I think that's the parents' job to expose your children to your culture.
Exactly.
It can be, but then again, the child growing up may decide, I don't want to identify with
that
his
particular
culture.
culture.
I prefer to identify with the other culture.
But that's the child's choice. The parent just has to make sure, at least on their end, to offer that opportunity. For example, in my household, I'm Haitian. My first language is French, so I speak to my daughters in French, and my mother speaks to them in Creole. Her mother speaks to them in English and Romanian, so there's 4 languages at the same time, and the children adapt, and they know.
Wow.
So that, and both cultures are fully given to the children. So they know everything about Romania, everything about Haiti, as much as they can. That's because we made that choice.
Right. You kind of make a point of that.
Exactly.
Listen, the reality is, like, I'm in an intercultural marriage myself. We're both white, but we come from different parts of the world. Let's say our families come from different parts of the world. I come from North Africa. I was born there, and then my husband's family's from England. Let's say, so very, very diverse. And my children know probably not enough about my culture, because I don't even identify as much with the North African culture. Mm-hmm. So it's not really passed on, except for the food, and the values and what have you. And my dream is to bring them to Casablanca, where I was born, and get them to experience it a little bit one day. But it is up to us. Like, I recognize that it's up to us for sure.
To add to about culture and, trying to maintain one's identity in an intercultural, interfaith, interlingual
The interlingual one, exactly.
I have a disclaimer. I always say, do you like soca? If it's a no, it's going to be an issue. Soca music is a tradition in our country. My favorite meal and my specialty is stew chicken. Mm-hmm. So if that person per se doesn't like stew chicken or doesn't,
you're not going to go out with them.
It's difficult.
So they have to like your music
difficult.
and your food.
Well, I mean, a little bit.
Hold on. What if they don't know anything about it, but they're open to trying it?
So I introduce, right? Myself, I'm Trinidadian, but I love Haitian food. I love griot. So, if the person I'm dating or, it's okay if they're vegan but if they're open. But if I'm in the house and I'm cleaning on a Saturday and I'm dancing to my soca and the person I'm with's like, shut that off, that's going to be a problem.
You're going to have to kick him out of the house for that time then, okay? But come on, that can't be a make or break deal.
Well, hold on. For some people, because it's not just the music, but the connection to her culture, the connection to her family.
Right.
So there are going to be some things for people that are very important. They won't know how important it is until they date someone that makes them or tries to get them to give it up.
But why would you, again, why would you be with someone who tries to give it up? Like, I love music from my country, belly dancing music and such, and I'll play it and dance and whatever. I don't think my husband wants to hear that. So I don't do it when he's there. He wants his rock and roll, but I like to play that kind of music for, it's I don't know. It just does.
I agree with you,
me.
Dr. Laurie. I think it's not, at least in my perspective, I don't think it's the fact that they like or don't like the music. It's the fact that they tried to remove that part of you.
Yeah, which
that's your issue, or
right.
That's the person's issue.
You can't erase somebody's
exactly.
culture or try to. You have to. That's what I said. Embracing. You have to be open-minded enough to be able to embrace or delight in somebody else's culture and love that difference. But if you struggle with difference, then that's going to put you in a difficult position.
Well, some people don't want to be open to it, and they're willing to deal with the consequences of it, which is if you're going to do something I don't like, I'm ready to deal with the consequences of you not being around.
Yeah.
I even have to say, I don't even think you need to like it. As long as you respect that that's what the person does, that's fine.
This texter writes, music is a deal breaker. Sorry, boys.
That's probably a friend of mine who likes soca.
That's right. Another texter writes, introduce Black culture and education in the home. African-American authors, art, classical and folk music from Africa, etc. Yes, I think that it's very important if you're in an interracial relationship to be able to introduce that, If you don't like my music, you're gone.
Told you, music is more
important. Soca is life. I'm not even sure I know what soca is. Anyway, we'll have to play. Maybe Brian can find some soca music. Yeah, you'll try and find. Okay, he's gonna find us something.
Brian
so we can all hear it.
Oh yes, Brian.
Knows.
Are you married?
Brian, Petrona single.
He's been to jump up. He's definitely been to jump up.
I'm joking.
This texter writes, I've been married to a Haitian lady for the last 18 years with 3 beautiful kids. When I brought my girlfriend, who's now my wife, home to my Italian parents, she was accepted as a member of the family right away. So that's to me an open-minded family. Not all families are that open-minded, right? Mm-hmm. I've been married for the last 8 years to my wife, and life couldn't be any better. We enjoy each other for who we are individually and have a great life. Text writes, perhaps it's less of an attempt to removing the culture or connection to the culture, but rather a resentment of a connection that the person in particular may lack with their own culture. That's possible.
That's very possible. Good
Yeah.
comment. Good comment.
Brian, somebody texted in saying, please play Kess.
I'm telling you, that's a friend of mine.
He's going to look for that. If you're wondering what we're talking about, interracial, intercultural, interfaith dating, and this last bit is about, well, Petrona here, my guest, says she's not dating anyone who doesn't like her soca music. So you're out. If you like soca music, she may go on a date with you. Maybe. 514-800 to text in, or 514-790-0800. How important is it for you to date somebody or to be married to somebody within your culture, within your religion, within your racial background, for example?
Straight talk that's all inclusive. Passion with Dr. Laurie. News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
I love this music. So this is soca music. No wonder you dance to this music while you're cleaning. This is awesome. Dating dilemmas. We're talking about interracial, intercultural, interfaith dating. Petrona Joseph is in studio, and she says she won't date somebody who doesn't like her music. But how could you not like that? Frank Kermit is here. He's a dating coach. And Fitzgerald Morisseau, founder and president of Elite Speed Dating. .com. A couple of texts here. I'm glad that you are discussing this subject. It might help listeners become open-minded and live in peace. Isn't that all what we want? Just to live peacefully? Is it really that important?
And if you can't live in peace, at least leave people alone and just let them be.
Just let them be. Exactly. Let people make their own choices. Hello, my niece is half Italian, 3/4 French Canadian, and 1/4 Scottish. She is also Catholic. Her husband is Syrian and Orthodox. They now have a son who is a mixture of all these cultures and religions. When she goes to her in-laws, herself and her son are learning about Syrian culture, and when they come to my parents' house, her husband and son are learning about the Italian culture. No problems in either family. But you have to have an open, you have to have an open mind in all of that to be able to do this and do it lovingly. And, whatever it is, your child chooses a partner. Ultimately, what do you want? You want them to be happy. You want them to be
You want a good life
healthy
partner who's going to be a good co-parent to any children.
Right. And you want them to be treated well by whomever it is, because it doesn't matter the culture. You can, have for a partner no matter what. So
I'm actually very curious to see how all this DNA testing that's going on now
with that, yes.
perspective, because people who think that they are of a particular race and only that culture may find out that, at least DNA-wise and historically,
they've got a whole lot of mixtures. Actually, there was a great YouTube video of that, or I don't know if it was
Ancestry.com, where they sampled about 20 or 30 different people.
And they asked them first, right? What are you? And they say, I'm 100% white American. And then they discover that they had African in their culture. They had
there was a guy from Cuba who just identified with being Cuban, and he had 26 different genetic markers, everything from Iceland to different parts of Africa.
Hey, I did it. I did the 23andMe. I did the genetic testing out of curiosity, and everybody always asked me, "Are you Italian?" And I'd say, "No, my origins are Spanish. Like, I was born in Morocco, but I always believed my origins were Spanish. Well, they're not. They're like, I'm 54% Italian." And there's apparently I'm not sure what the percentage was, but it was actually pretty high. The Italian side, of course, I don't have any Italian relatives, and that I know of. And then I was a little bit of South Africa. Then there was a little bit of really was really interesting. To see very little European, but a little bit of European, and the rest, North African. So I thought it was very interesting to see that kind of thing. You never know. Now I say, now when people ask me, say, I think I am. According to my genetics, I am. Can't speak a word of it, but I am.
Getting back to interracial dating, what about the fact that there's a lot of speed dating events based on people of a certain culture.
Yeah.
They only want to date within that culture.
That's right. That's right.
Fritz, if you want to comment on that.
Well, you can, when you come to one of our events, not only, can you date many different people, but we also have events that are specifically geared for certain cultures, i.e., we've done speed dating for the Jewish community. We've done speed dating for the Haitian community. We've also done speed dating for, now I'm going to go intercultural, but that's actually Jewish community. That's both culture and religion at the same time. But we've done for Catholics. And then we go into more general, as in open to everybody, right? Which we like to. Myself, being part of an interracial, I generally like when people mix.
What about languages?
Language, we do not. I have to say, we do not separate the languages at Elite Speed Dating. So when you come to our events, you will be expected to speak either French or English or both. Living in Montreal, that never has been an issue so far. So I never had anybody tell me I just want this, or maybe they'd never voiced that opinion.
But the language thing, I think, is more a cultural thing.
Yes, I would agree.
The French Canadian culture is different, has its own set of its own, exactly. So it can be very different from people who grow up, let's say, in the Anglo community, from whichever, or the Allophone community.
Question for Fritz: when people are matching up at these speed dating events, do you notice if there's more matches that happen when everybody is of the same culture, the same background, or do we have more matches when it's mixed?
Very good question, Frank. Now, I will say this: when the speed datings are generally open, i.e., for speed dating for professionals or speed dating Saturday night speed dating, when there is no culture-based or specific criteria that is either culture, race, or religion, then you see a multitude of matches, okay? As opposed to when they are very specific, I could clearly, it's very funny to say this, but the number really outweighs. As soon as they don't know you for some reason, or they don't know a friend of yours, then that was an automatic yes. They didn't really ask that many other questions. As long as they didn't know your friends or family and you were potential, they went.
Anyway, in today's world, there's all kinds of websites, dating things, and such. This last text: I'm an atheist and soon to be married to a Muslim woman. My future in-laws are forcing me to be Muslim in order for us to be married, and they are very religious. I don't like being someone I am not. I would like to know if this is a common occurrence and to know your thoughts on my situation. I wish we had more time to actually answer this. We do not, but this is going to pose some serious challenges for you.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you guys for being here. If you want information about speed dating, elitespeeddating.com. And Petrona, where can people see you?
I am Petrona Joseph on Instagram.
All right. Wonderful. And Frank at franktalks.com. That's it for us. Thank you for listening to Passion. Thank you for all of your texts. Thanks to Brian Calstar, our technical producer. You can connect with me on social media at Dr. Laurie Betito. Coming up next on CJAD, the CTV National News. Have a great rest of the evening, and remember to live your life with passion.